Hi, everyone. Good morning on the Saturday. It's really cloudy here. I hope it's sunnier over at your end. I'm Red Dot Diva. For those who are watching first time on this live stream, I'm a Singapore-based blogger, and I write about entertainment, lifestyle, pop culture that includes comics, movies, and I started this live stream last year during the lockdown because of the pandemic. I was looking through a lot of articles on pop culture because I consume so much of it, and I found that hi, why isn't there a lot of talk and articles about the creators in this Southeast Asian region? I mean, I know so many people who are so talented, but you don't know their names, and it is such a waste because their work is very good, and it is like it speaks to you as a Southeast Asian person. So I thought that okay, why not I get some of my friends on board, and it started from there, and it has been like over a year. I'm so amazed that I actually got continued this live stream for over a year. So now I've been looking for creators all over the region. Sometimes there's a difficulty because of language problems, but I'm so glad to be able to connect with our guest for today. She's based in Jakarta. Her name is Ariela Kristantina, and I'm going to put her on screen right now so that you can say hi to her. Hello, Ariela. How are you?
Hey, great. How about you?
Good. I'm kind of glad that it's a bit cloudy because it was so hot this week. I was so
It
humid.
is.
So now
It
it's
is.
I hope it's cooling down. And for you guys who are stopping by, just say hello, on the comments, and we'll be able to see it and probably say hi back. So we have a first guest today, though. It's Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark. Where are you from, Mark?
Where are you from, Mark? He says good day. I'm not sure he's still based in Australia. The time that I met Mark, I was in Manila.
Okay, nice.
Uh, okay, so Ariella, I think there are a lot of people who kind of like not aware of your work. Maybe you
Uh-huh.
could give us a short introduction about yourself.
Oh, yeah. I'm based in Jakarta, Indonesia. And back in Indonesia, back in 2000, mid 2000, I was a manga artist. I had a studio with my friends. There are 5 or 6 of us. All of us are women. And in 2010, 2011, I decided to actually get an art degree because before I don't have a degree or anything. So I went to SCAD. I took my master's degree in sequential art. And after that, the rest is history. In 2014, by the time I was ready to flew back to Jakarta, I got this 2 visitors um, from Marvel and comiXology, Chip Moser and Mike Martz. They were there, for scat stuff. And then my professor said, like, hey, look at this artist, look at her portfolio. And then Mike Martz just gave me like an offer, like, would you like to work on a Wolverine stuff? Like, yes, please. Around the same time, Justin Jordan and Boom uh, was also offering me a job
This is the
for
one,
Deep
right?
State. Yeah, that's the one. That's my first. That's my first job from Marvel. And at the same time, I was working on Deep State 2 with Justin Jordan for Boom Studio. So yeah, Marvel is kind of like on and off, like one story. Because after that, I still work on Wolverines,
Mm.
um, several Wolverine issues, and Deep State. I keep going for I forgot like 2 volume, 2 arcs at that time. Yeah, and it just keeps going on until now. Thank God.
When you were studying in SCAT, right?
Yeah.
To leave your home to go all the way over there, uh, were there, what was your experience like? Any memorable ones or scary ones?
Ooh, I think all of them is memorable. As you know, like we in Asia, we live with our parents until we are old, basically, and that's the first time I actually went out on my own and live alone, and it's very interesting. and kind of scary too. But my friends are all great there. SCAD has a lot of international students.
Mhm.
Sequential art has students from Vietnam, from China, Korea, a couple from America. So it's like a very international class, and it's great.
Cool, very interesting. I suppose
Hmm.
that you learn from each other as well, coming from different parts of the world, and then
Right.
you won't be feeling so lonely dealing with
No, no.
Okay, I've gone through like some of the comics that you've done, like InSEXts, Mata Hari,
Hmm.
and there seems to be a theme. Well, at least for me that I noticed, it's like a more feminist kind of stories, like female characters, but not just female characters that stand out um,
Hmm.
during the time of their existence in this world, or female characters who are actually quite unique because in the midst of all the superhero comics, which are really attracting the male audience. Like for especially insects, it's like they're setting it on a Victorian times, where
Hmm.
two women lovers and they have these powers as well, and they're kind of like dealing with the restrictions that they face during that time. Are these the themes that actually draw you to work for these projects? Because it seems that to me there seems to be a trend to be
It,
conscious.
it could be, or it could be just the stories that are. Hi, Howard. It's just the story that it got offered to me. At first, with insects, first of all, Marguerite is brilliant,
Mm,
and I got the pitch from Mike Martz actually after he left Marvel at the time. He co-created or he co-founded Aftershock, and then he pitched it to me. I remember at lunch in New York. I was like, "So we have these stories about two women, okay, who are lovers, cool, who can turn into insects and hunt other men." And I say, "Great, put me in." I'm like, I want that story.
I know it's
Um,
so unique.
yeah, but I never really expect that that will be a theme for me after that, because after insects I got a lot of offer. I think at one time I got offer Barbarella or something. I
Mhm.
think, and I said no.
Wow.
Um,
Is that okay? The story didn't jive with you.
I I don't want to be in that box.
Mm.
Actually, I don't. Apparently, I'm in a box, according to you. I don't want to be in that box, like certain sexy women kind of, box. Uh, and I also got offered back then, like we're gonna come back to this. Like back then, I got offered Genius, but
Mm.
the timing was not right because I was on InSEXts.
Mm.
Um, um, Genius is a very strong female. It has a very strong female characters as well, and the setting was in LA, if I'm not mistaken. But at the same time, yeah, I was doing something else. I was like, I can't, Mark. I am so sorry. By that time, it wasn't Mark that contacted me, but the editor
Mm.
of Genius who contacted me, and then I got Karen Berger who reached out to me because the writer actually asked for me. And Karen didn't know my work. It's like, who is this woman? um, she's never like she knew inside like because I sent her some pages, but then we met in person in Portland out of coincidence before we started working on Matahari. So
Mm.
she said like, I happen to be in Portland. Are you here as well? Yes, I was visiting Portland at time for several months, and I brought my portfolio with me, and we had dinner and so on. And then she looked at uh, my pages. I was like, "This looks great. This could work." So that's how I got Matahari
Oh,
too.
Watanabe is really beautiful. I love the pictures and the way you draw. Oh, she's a very intriguing character as well. I think a lot of people don't realize that she's actually Dutch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she is super Dutch.
Dutch. Yeah, and I really. like the Matahari. I mean, I did enjoy insects, but it's a bit too strange for me. Although the drawing was like really fantastic. Uh, it was really out of this world. It's one of the strangest stories I've ever read.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is not for everybody. That's all I can say. But I do feel that is what I really love about Insight is that it's really different, and I feel
I
like
really appreciated that part of it.
yeah, that work is pretty gritty and rough, but
Yeah,
also where I like it. Matahari is a little bit safe, like
yeah,
it's built
correct.
pulled back. It's very structured, work wise, style
Yeah.
wise. I think they're really different.
And I think
Oh,
insects is very liberating in the sense that it allows, like
yeah,
the writer and you to go just like wow with the imagination.
definitely.
There's
Oh,
some,
hi.
yeah, there's a
Somebody
lot of
said,
people.
thank you
Some
so much.
of my friends like Edward, Wee, uh, John, and Andre. And John was saying like, I really enjoy your
Yeah.
art. And deep state.
Thank you. Well, Deep State, I really missed that stories. I wish they continue it with Arc 3 because it's supposed to be like an ongoing series. But yeah, something happened. And then Boom said, like, we got to finish it in like so and so issues. Like, okay, that's fine too. Sometimes it happens like that.
Okay. Um, During the time when you're working with, since we are talking about feminists and women in comics
Mhm.
characters and real people, have you ever faced any prejudice or gatekeeping during the time you were working in comic book projects?
Oh, I may have. I guess with like many female creators, they faced, once or twice microaggressions from like male fans or like weird fans and conventions in general. I think it's that something just happened actually on Facebook. Like if you see my status on Facebook,
I haven't.
uh, yeah, it was I was commenting like somebody else, like some random person made a comment in Justin Jordan's fall about a writer who had this like imprint that has like 8 books and it's all great. It has a great writer. He's a great writer and an all great artist working with him. And his comment was like, I think he's overextending himself. Like, obviously, the money goes up, but then your quality of work goes down. I was like, you don't know what happened behind closed door. You don't know how long this deal has been going on. Like, you have no right to judge whatever. And then he tried to get out of it, completely ignoring what I said. But then when somebody else, a dude, said the same exact thing that I said, then he reacted to the dude, but not to me. And then he silently changed his wording, like his original comments from I think he's overextending himself to I worry he's overextending himself. So like, dude, you did not say that earlier.
Yeah, I know. I think culturally wise, all around the world, it just seems to
Yeah.
be the same thing that a woman's voice is kind of like ignored most of the time. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's also
unfortunately.
stereotype where oh, they are naggy, they nag a lot, the kind of thing, and oh, ignore.
Yeah.
Well, my friend Warren has a comment for you. It's like question. I enjoyed the
Ooh.
Matahari. You do a lot of research into the look and feel of the series and the mood of the period.
Yes. I did a ton of it because I was afraid since this like based on real person. So I remember a month before I got the script, I went online and I asked people, do any of you have, a story about Matahari, pictures or anything? And this is the beauty of internet. Some random guys who's not my friend either, because he's in the same group that I was, um, DM me and said, I live in a town where Matahari was born.
Oh
Like, if
wow!
you want, I can go around the town and took pictures of her hometown. Like the hometown was only pictured in like a page or two, but because of this guy that sent me like gigabytes of photograph
Wow.
and with notes, mind you, with notes like, oh, this is the bridge, this is an old post office. Every like single landmark, he would put a little note. Because of this guy, like I managed to feel, you know,
Yeah.
the vibe of Matahari, of what kind of person she is. Like, oh, this is where she lived, where she spent most of her childhood. And in terms of style, I look back to like an old like illustrator kind of style, in like an old American illustration, Lindecker around that time. Not exactly that I have to modify them a little bit, but I want it to look like an old book that you're
Yeah.
holding.
It does. It has that retro vintage look.
Yeah, I have folders and folders of like pictures. Like every like the second he mentioned, oh, like the second, sorry, the writer mentioned Java. Like Java, I went like Wikipedia, whatever else that is linked there. Just like, do I have pictures of Batavia back then, or like any Japanese house? Even though
Were there when
was
she
that
was in Indonesia? Were there pictures?
a lot,
A lot.
apparently black and white. Um, it was amazing the amount of thing that you can find on internet. It's also kind of scary.
Like what kind of legacy are you leaving, right?
Yeah,
Future.
exactly. It will live forever.
What made you actually decide to get into sequential art? I mean, did you even think that was like, oh, this is going to be like what I'm going to do? Or you were actually moving in another direction
Yeah.
and you kind of suited?
No, I've always known that I wanted to be a comic artist. I don't know what kind of comic artist, but I remember back then when I was still like 4 or 5, my sister was still drawing at that time. We used to make like little characters, and then we put like a balloon on top of it. But we voiced it because we couldn't write, so we just voiced it. I make a voiceover, and then she stopped drawing, and I didn't, and I keep going. And then manga was very big in Indonesia and still big in Indonesia back in the 90s. I grew up with the 80s and 70s mangas because we always translated them late. Like we got manga, it's like 10 years old manga from Japan,
Yeah.
fully translated into Indonesia. So I grew up with all that um, until 2011, and I decided to go to SCAT and entirely try to, well, let's try a new style. Why not?
Well, actually, when we're talking about representation of female comic book writers, in the manga world, it's like most of them are actually women artists in Japan who are churning out all these different types of manga. So again, it's kind of weird to see the topic coming up as one of the main, um, things that are coming out concerning women and the representation in pop culture world, gaming, and
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I noticed that you have your trajectory, like working into high profile comic books, is like shoom. You're like an it girl of the graphic novel sphere. Was
No.
How was the journey of getting yourself noticed? Like, how do you get all these high profile projects? I'm sure there are some people who are watching who are curious to know how did you get noticed?
That is a very tricky question. This is where many artists, especially female, especially, you know, person of color, I asked this to myself, and I'm sure many will have the same questions. Like, do I have to notice because I'm a woman and I'm a person of color? Or do I have a notice because of my skill?
Hmm.
Like, that will be the questions that will haunt me for the rest of my career. And it's just the way it is, I guess. But we have to be optimistic and just do the best work that you can, and make sure that people actually notice you because of your skill instead of everything else. Uh, I think these days is a lot easier than, let's say, in the
Yeah.
mid 2000. You have
Mm.
Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
right? You have TikTok. You can do literally anything. Deviant art is a thing in the past, but people still use it. People still find me through my Deviant art that is already dead. As in, like, I've never updated it anymore since, like, I don't know, 5 years ago. But
Yeah.
people still like, hey, I found your Deviant art. Oh my god, it's still there. I was like, how? Also, Pinterest, if you feel like
This is also
try to
going.
Google, yeah, Google, yeah, but it's still there. Like once, like I said, the pictures are forever apparently. Like once your illustration is there, once your image is there, it's just gonna be there for the rest of the world, I guess, until the internet dies. So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier. Twitter,
In your opinion, social media does help a lot getting noticed and getting your voice out
exactly.
there and connecting, networking, and so on. Yeah, I do feel that too, especially for women who, through the traditional means, find more difficulty in getting their voice out there and noticed. Social media has helped a lot, even though there are the toxic moments. It's a very interesting and useful tool. I mean, if it
Hmm.
were not for social media, I would not be able to connect with a lot of people and even across borders and around the world. So here we are, I always thought that it's a very useful tool for all of us and we should use it to our benefit.
Exactly. Yeah, also we have more channel now. Like we have Webtoon, we have Kickstarter. Like everybody could make comic. We have Patreon, we have Tapas. Everything you could use, on if you want to, you could be published and get noticed. I know a lot of people got like noticed from even like comic strip in Instagram. Like they post
Yes,
steadily, and they got like
platforms.
millions of followers. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know of some artists who uh, got their popularity from the web comics.
Yeah,
Though like one shot ones, not even.
one shot. Yeah. No, it's like Sarah Anderson, War and Peace, Wawa comics about the like kindness of a shark or whatever. It was great. I think I enjoy this. Like most of them are women, at least the one that I follow, and I enjoy their works a lot online.
So you were mentioning that throughout your career, I think the question of whether you will notice because you're a woman and you're a person of color, that's going to be like a question you'll continually ask yourself.
Hmm.
I think that's also connected to what some people term now as like imposter syndrome. Um, that topic
Right.
actually came out in my workplace as well. But then also people also say that they tend to attach imposter syndrome to women who are in their careers or women creators, and probably it's just not just imposter syndrome, but the things that surround you as a woman living in this world, the
Correct.
politics, the boys' club, and certain other
Hmm.
cultural beliefs. So, what do you think about that? Do you face this kind of like moments of you're not confident enough, and how do you deal with it? How do you get over it, that hurdle, and start creating again and do wonders?
Uh, wow. I'm lucky in a way that since like I said, like I took my master degrees in SCAT, and the environment there is really positive to me. Like I don't know, but I've heard other stories. Obviously, what happens to me may not happen to everyone else, and everybody maybe have different experience than I do or I did while I was in SCAT. But coming from there, it really was really helpful to me, especially because I'm coming from Indonesia to United States, where I basically, on quote, in Savannah, I don't know anybody. I have a family friend who are really close to me in New York, but they are like 5 hours flight away or like 4 hours flight away. Most of the time I spend in Savannah. And after that, after I graduated, that friendship follows me around. It follows me to every conventions and it follows me to every event, comic event, and we're very like supportive one another. And I have the best thankfully, like editors that I work with so far, that I think is really fair and just. You know, if I did mistakes or I did something wrong, they would be like, "Hey, this is not okay." Or, but if I do good, they will be like, "This is great work. Keep it going. I keep it coming." So it really boosts your confidence. It really boosts your, "Oh, I'm doing something right." You know, and once in a while, you just have to pat yourself in the back, like, "I'm doing okay." You know, you have to do it yourself. If not,
Own your acknowledgement.
yeah, you have to like, "I'm okay." It's hard, but you kind of have to do it once in a while.
When you talk about support system, I really, really believe in that as well. A true support system with good friends
Yeah.
will help a lot in real life and in other ways.
Mhm.
All right, we're coming to a halfway point. I have promised people that there's going to be a special guest, and he's here right now, all ready to join us. He has been working in the industry for a really long time, and he was an. If I could give a hint now, you might know who he is. He was an editor of Political and Peace Journal for over 15 years, and then he's now doing freelance work. He's also just currently working with Ariela with that. So I'm happy to welcome Will Dennis all the way from New York. Hello, Will.
Hey.
Hello.
I know.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you all fine.
Oh man, I was freaking myself out. I'm like out. I'm actually in Connecticut in the country,
Oh,
and there sounded like there's someone walking around outside, and then like my motion detector like light went off, and I was like, I think it might be like a. Sometimes it's like a deer or something walks by, you know.
and this is the first time I understand it that Will is appearing on a live stream that's Asian based. So I think the friends here are all so happy to see you. We have John saying hi, and then
Hello.
my friend Wen saying hello,
Hello.
and Andre as well. They're all coming to but please ask questions and we'll put them up as we go along. So you've been working with, I mean, well, how was it like, switching from working with like the people for so many years when they moved to Burbank and all of a sudden like, okay, I can't follow you guys across the continent, decide to venture on yourself on a freelance basis. What were the thoughts in your head at that time?
Oh, sorry, you're sort of like cutting out on me there. Is that my like sound thing? Is that you, Ariella?
No, that's not me.
Sounds like you're in like an airport or something.
Oh,
This
What is
is
that?
all these people selling like everyday stuff,
Step
like
out of there.
buckets,
oh,
mop,
like
in a
the
Yeah,
pickup
I'm like,
truck.
what is going on? Sounds like
He's
you're.
announcing.
It sounds like you're at the airport or something. Are you flying to a convention or
I
something?
live in a
What's going
suburban,
on?
man. Give me a break.
Oh man. Okay. All right.
okay, wait, question. What was he selling?
Right.
What was he selling?
Selling
Yeah. What
mop,
are they?
like mop, bucket, broom. Literally, I am not like I'll
Oh
pick
my
on a
god.
pickup and a pickup truck, and then housewife would come out and then start to haggle.
I thought you were gonna go
That's
out and
what's
yell at
up.
them. Yeah. Are they hiring? That's what I want to know. I could use a steady job. No, yeah, I think you were asking. I mean, so I was at DC for like 16 years working for Vertigo, and then when DC left to go to California, that's when I took my golden parachute and went home. At that point, I just wasn't gonna. I didn't really want to move to California, and look, I'm based in New York. My family's in New York, and grew up in near New York. So it just was like, it was too far. And then you could sort of see like where it was headed in terms
Yeah,
of the
right.
corporateness
Yeah.
of it, and I was saying it's like it's not going to be too many years when they're, I'm not going to, they're not going to have a lot of use for me, and then I'm looking for a job in California, and it's just, so it was fine. It was good. And at first it was kind of weird, for a while. I don't think I'm still used to the freelancer lifestyle. I miss like the office and the office politics and going out with people. It gets a little tedious just being at your kitchen table all the time, you know. Although, like, the whole world experienced that for the last year, I guess. So,
Right. That was one of the
But-
questions I was actually going to ask. Like, working for the both of you during this pandemic, right? What have the challenges been working on your projects?
the hardest part is just being around your family is the hardest part. You don't realize, oh, I love my family. I love my kids. It's like, I love them for like 2 hours at night and an hour in the morning. And then, loving them for 12 hours a day is a whole other kettle of fish.
do you escape to somewhere when you need to? When you get sick?
Where do you escape to, Ariela? I can't seem to escape to anywhere. I have nowhere to escape to.
I'm hiding in my room and just lock it because I have 2 nieces. They are age 4, 5, 4 and 5, and 6 and 7, around that age. I forgot exactly. So you know how annoying that age is, and then their mom.
They're all
is-
annoying, but yeah, those are.
They're gonna still be annoying until they're older. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, they're teenagers in a few years.
Yeah, but then my sister, my mom, their mom, my sister is working on the 2nd floor, and she's like, "Do not bother me. I'm on meeting all day." So it's just the auntie at home. I'm just like, "No, I am drawing."
I know. I don't think people. I think people had this impression that, like, 2 weird impressions. Like, one, that working from home was just some, really easy or fun, or I always got the feeling when they came home from school or work that they were like, oh yeah, I've been sitting around all day reading the paper and doing whatever, which isn't. It's only half true. But now it's like, I also think people didn't really. I don't think anybody. I think people thought, oh, you're home and now you can be more productive. You don't have to commute. You don't have to do all this kind of stuff. But I suffered with a lot of the creators I work with, like, feeling very unmotivated, and very hard to get them to work, or just so distracted by what was happening. It wasn't. I mean, some people really threw themselves into stuff and were like, okay, I'm going to use this time to really do this, particular one thing. But I don't know. I think I don't think we really fully realized, like, how much of an impact it had on just your mental health and your motivation and things like that. I think people, on top of everything else, I think people started beating themselves up about, oh, I should be doing more, or it's not really, or a lot of freelancers I kept hearing, it's not really any different. It's the same. Or people would say to you, like, oh, how is it different? It's the same and as it was before. And it's like, it's not the same. It's just not. Like, I don't,
because other people are at home. Before, you're alone at home.
That was a big part.
That's the whole different.
But I do think just mentally, I feel like it was just this weight on everyone's shoulders, and across the whole globe. And I don't know, it's interesting, just how it definitely impacted artists and writers, and they're kind of weird. Like, they're not normal, right? So it's just, anything that's a little spins them out of their comfort zone can tend to, like, be, it can take a real toll on people,
Honestly, though, I mean, I can understand the sentiment. I mean, there are a lot of people who feel that way. Honestly, though, I've been working, like, in the office scenario for so many years, right? And then this is the first time that I actually work from home, and I love it.
Yeah, of course, right.
Some people do love it.
Yeah, I found that it suits my timetable, because for me, I'm kind of like Ariela, I'm a bit swapped. I'm a night owl, so for me, in 9 to 5, it was mentally arduous. I'm like a night owl. I wake up late, So for me to have like a late start, and then break, and then decide to work after 7, it suits me just fine. Maybe
No, I find it can be much more productive, because, I mean, particularly in a place like DC, there's people there whose job is just to take meetings, right? Like, they don't seem to do anything else except organize meetings and go to meetings, and invite you to go to meetings. So I realized I'd spend a lot of time during my day sitting in these meetings, and it's an hour here, an hour there, and it's like you don't have to do that. You can just be so much more productive with your time. It's like I can just bang out a bunch of emails, take a break, get a snack, come back, do it. That is a plus, for sure.
So we have a few more people coming in, like Elvin and Jet. And Elvin says that that's the worst of this pandemic. We love our family, so we don't.
Elvin, right on.
We need that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mid-pandemic 2021, circa the pandemic time.
Yeah.
All right, from your career, long decades of career in the comic book business, I think 2 decades, right? We noticed that, there have always been Filipino artists working in comic book.
Yeah.
More and more artists from this region, like Indonesia, coming in as well. Do you actually notice that there is a larger number of artists from this region? Number one. Number two, do you face any challenges like language barriers, cultural differences in dealing with them?
Oh yeah, for sure. I do. I don't know if that was for me or not, but yeah, there was, like going even far back to the 70s, there was like that huge wave of like Filipino artists that were, working for Marvel and stuff. And, but yeah, as you were saying earlier before, it's like with the, Instagram and all these different ways to see stuff. I can see these artists all over and maybe reach out to them. And you really don't have any idea where they are. They could be wherever, but yeah, it's definitely been, we've worked on a few projects now and are working on some other ones, but yeah, there's definitely been some, I don't know if we had conflicts, Ariel. I don't know if you had conflicts, but like, there's definitely, there's been adjustments for me, I think some of it was going back to what she was speaking about before, about the business of, the complimenting like an artist or trying to like, that sort of stuff. Particularly early on when we started working together, that started to kind of fall a little flat. Like when I would be like, "Hey, these pages are great. Like, keep them coming." And so we're so happy with them, and it'd be like, "Okay," or "Sure," or nothing. And I'd be like, "Are you, like?" We get out and be sort of like, "Is she upset? Is that the wrong thing to say?" Like, and then eventually you were sort of like, "Look, this is just like your mental default is like, this is my job. They should be good. If they're not good, I wouldn't send them to you. So, but
that's the terrible Asian part of us, right? We are expected to do everything perfectly. If not, I don't want to see it. Like it's been instilled in us. Like we are at a point like we're traumatized by it. Like that's in our bone. Like if you come home and you got 98, but there are other kids that got 100, how dare you coming home? How dare you? That's the mentality. So if I send you a page and it's not like you said it's good, it's like, oh, it's supposed to be good. What are you talking about? Like if it's not good, give it back to me. I'll revise it.
Right.
If it's not good, I don't even hit the button send.
Yeah, that's definitely been an adjustment for sure. Because like
I'm trying.
No, and it's interesting. I'm lucky because when I work with a lot of Europeans, particularly like Italians, like the Italians are like the exact opposite. They're like, it's great, right? Aren't they? It's amazing. And then I'm like, yeah, it's great. Like, no, it's great. And it's like this, hugging, complimenting kind of thing. Or the British guys are all very like, yeah, it's good, right? And you're like, yeah, it's fantastic, and it's like, it's a different kind of humbleness or whatever, but it's that's definitely been an adjustment. And I think also, the language, like, obviously your English is like fantastic in speaking and writing, but sometimes you do say, when we're talking or you're emailing, you'll say like, I have to like take more time. It's easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, you understand exactly what I mean, or expect you to respond right away. So that's definitely been an adjustment at times, and it's helped me talking to her and sort of saying, even when we've had to deal with other people like Brian, who did some of her coloring, or other people, like I worked on this benefit book that like Alti worked on, and is it Yenny? I don't know how you pronounce Yenny, or like did the coloring
Yenny.
for her. Yeah, and even Sheila like did some stuff, for that too, and their English like being, not where yours is and stuff, and it's definitely like a little, I have to remind myself like this is sort of, to be patient or try to be more clear in my explanation, or just, give visual examples, or whatever it is. But it definitely takes a lot of diplomacy, I guess is like maybe the word,
Yeah.
because you don't, I mean, putting everything is outside. It's like artists are sensitive, writers are sensitive. Like they, even if you're hardened by your Asian upbringing or whatever, it's like, and I say this all the time. I'm like, if you were normal, like you would just have a normal job, like anytime, like I've had assistants who are like, right. I've had assistants who like get upset about an artist flaking out, or a writer like doing something kooky or whatever. And, you have to kind of remind yourself, it's like, look, if they were normal people, they would work, they'd work at a bank, or they'd work at Starbucks, or they'd do whatever it is they want to do. But, the fact
Right.
that you're dealing with these different personalities,
I am sorry, we're weird.
My friends are like, I feel it, man. So John was saying, there was that grading joke in Singaporean schools. A is average.
Yeah.
Is better. Type C is confirm whacked. Whacked at home. D is don't come home. I forgot what E was. F is finding a new family.
Oh my goodness.
See, I mean, like that's a Singaporean joke, but like I think it's the same all across Asia, from India to Indonesia. It's probably different wordings and different
Yeah.
attitudes.
Yeah, so here everybody gets a medal. Like you show up and you get a participation medal. So it's like, everyone's like a very, there's not much of that going on.
All right.
And Mark, hi Mark.
Hi, Mark. We'll get back to you. I'm just heading into the topic about ADORA and the Distance, where the both of you have worked together for this
Yeah.
particular project. It's getting a lot of good reviews, critical reviews, and being nominated for an award as well. How is it like working with? I'm not that popular enough to get Mark on board, but he's such a wonderful writer and personality as well. How was it? How was the project like? And what were the challenges and the happy moments when you were working on ADORA and the Distance?
Well, like I said before, like Mark contacted me, or some editor from Genius contacted me to work with Mark, and then Mark contacted me himself on Genius Volume 3, and I still said no because I was on Matahari at that time. I was like, I am so sorry. But then a couple months after, right after Matahari was done, I'm not doing anything else. He came back to me and then he said, like, I got the script, like creator owned, about autistic girl, and like I really loved the pitch at the time. And he said he's pitching it to comiXology and all that, and I think I forgot the rest because it's moving very fast. I probably will remember the chronology of that. I remember we met in New York Comic Convention. Somebody was late, yada yada yada. Over it's comic convention.
I was so hungover. I thought I should go to the hospital instead of go to this meeting. But I went to the meeting.
Crazy.
Anyway. I mean,
that's
like,
crazy. There will be one person who's hangover in any conventions, like in any meeting. I guarantee you. And I got the script from Mark. I read, like, I don't really read the script like the whole thing. Like I read partially usually because like Will said, like it helped me from feeling overwhelmed. English, I can speak English, I can read English, I could write English, but to read like the whole 100 pages will overwhelm me, would overwhelm my artist brain. So I tend to read them parts by parts, and then I work on it as needed. Research is the biggest part of ADORA, and that's why it's moving very slowly. because this is a fantasy world, but I want that world to be grounded,
Yes.
as Mark requested as well. Like, it needs to be based on something, and we want people to believe that the place is real. Like, this is a place that somebody can actually live in. So that's where I'm going to with Adora, because if you see many of like fantasy story, like Will's favorite, uh, now I forgot titles.
Lord of
Uh,
the Rings.
yeah, Lord of the Rings. Like, you believe that that place can exist somewhere, maybe back like 3,000 years ago, whatever. Like, you
Right.
can sort of believe that a place can exist. You believe that Harry Potter's world exists. You secretly want to believe that. You secretly want to believe that there's a magical school somewhere.
Yep.
So that's what I want to do with Adora, and that's why it's very challenging that way.
Yeah, I see like a lot of details, in the background as well.
Right.
It's like
Oh,
an
yeah,
entire world.
I know. I get like I see that stuff and I get kind of annoyed because I'm like, look at all the drawings she did that like we don't, we only see for like a second. There's scenes in like the laboratory in this bit, and there's like beakers and everything sort of percolating, and I'm just like, oh, that's one panel on like 100 pages. We got to move this train down the tracks. And that was tricky too because the script, it didn't remember. It was kind of this like collection of reference points. So it was kind of like, it wasn't like, okay, make it look like King's Landing and like Game of Thrones. It was literally like, well, this is like a little Byzantium, and this is a little like
Yeah.
ancient Rome, and this is a little like like a whatever where Wonder Woman's from. Like there were all these kind of reference points around the reference, and which is cool because you can kind of come up with lots of stuff, and maybe, but it's also, it's like when your teacher would say, write an essay about anything you want to, like you sometimes like you prefer to have a focus. That's not to sound like critical. It's just that it does make, like, I realize that she did a lot of work, like kind of pre-game work, like pulling reference and pulling stuff and asking really specific questions about certain aspects of the environments and things like that, which is great, except then you have to like draw every minaret, and then we're as the editor, I'm like,
it's it's the artist brain that works that way. Like, when you say, what the script says, like, this is based on like ancient Spain or something. Okay, so draw the house. And then you were like, okay, so nobody has seen this house before in this like sort of ancient Spain. So you have to remember that the house has a roof, has a door, has a window frame, has a lawn, has a stairs. Like, what do they look like? Do you know? Like, how do people dress? Like, especially in a fantasy world, it's sort of based on many cultures.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find like, okay, this one based on Arabian night, that one based on somebody like Italian night, like the Antonio guys from Italy, right? So what would he wear?
Right.
What
But
the
it's tricky too,
color
yeah.
would be, things like that.
But in this day and age too, it's tricky because you can't just, you have to be kind of sensitive to the different, cultures and different countries and different, peoples all over the world. So, you can't just necessarily like, oh, we're going to make this exotic and throw everybody in like, Turkish robes or in like Arabian night costumes, because that just feels a little, so I think you were really, like in tune to that. I mean, and I don't know if you talked about it before, but the biggest not the biggest, but one of the huge contributions was to making Adora like, Black or African American, like in the real world, like I mean, you can tell that story probably better than me, but that Marc was like surprised by that, right?
Yeah, because in the script, he didn't mention that Adora was Black.
Right.
He didn't mention any race at all. He's just like, little girl, period. No description of her. And I just thought, well, I'm Indonesian, I'm brown, Marc is Black. I mean, why not making her a Black girl? Like, we don't see that very often either. and I just draw it as is. And then Mark was like, "Huh, that's interesting. I never said she's black." Oh, okay.
Yeah, we both were like, wow, yeah. Am I just, are we accidentally racist? Like, I don't understand. Like, what just
I
happened?
felt that.
You
I
know, we
felt that
both,
way. I was like, I feel bad.
I feel like you sent me a message or something and was like, oh my God, are we just like, and I was like, no, well, you know that it's sort of based in a certain reality and, but yeah, I don't know that I remember that being kind of a nice moment that, he was like, wow, I've had this in my head for years and I never really, pictured it like that. But
All right. We are actually about 10 minutes to our scheduled end time, but do you mind running a couple of minutes more as we
Sure.
chat? It seems like we are getting into this groove. And we'll allow some time for those who are watching in who have questions. Can you just post them below and we'll take the last 2 minutes as well to answer your questions. Since Bennett is here, it's such a rare opportunity. Please, don't waste your chance.
Somebody is asking if we have any sneaky information about Chain. I don't know if we could leak yet.
about what? About chain?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I have questions like, do you notice certain trends? Do you notice certain trends emerging from comic books and genre writing in the past few years or so?
Trends like within the comic books or as a result of comic books?
The comic book and graphic novels.
Well, I mean, clearly, like the YA, the young adult thrust has been like a massive thing, and that's more than the last few years. But that's clearly where companies are trying to focus a lot of their energy, and there's a lot of that's where in terms of sales and stuff, the money is like really flowing and a lot of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's for sure. I think anything that's kind of self-contained like that, like ADORA, is tends to be because it's like when I look at my own kids and they mostly just read manga. They don't really read like any kind of Western comics at all or very few. And they like to get this stuff in like these big chunks, and the big things, and then it's the way you start to consume Netflix or Prime or whatever else you're watching. Like we're used to this kind of not getting these stories in these little 20-page bursts, so I think clearly, I mean, I think even just this past weekend, Karen Berger, who was my old boss, who did the books at Dark Horse, and you worked with Matahari, right?
Mhm.
Like Karen was involved in that. Yeah, they just announced that all those books are just going to be going straight to like graphic novels. They're not going to be doing like the monthly books and things like that. I mean, it's tricky because I spend a lot of time with writers on these comics, and we're constantly trying. I work with Brian Azzarello for like 20 years now. We get 100 bullets and stuff, and he's constantly trying to make the writing very tight and very economical and cutting. Every month when we get a new issue, we're cutting the words, cutting the stuff, and tightening, and that really takes a lot of work. But to the person just buying the book for $3 or $4, and it's all lots of silent panels and lots of like just like one word dialogue, like really tight dialogue. I think there's a feeling of it's a bad value proposition, like it's for your time, for the money you've spent versus the time it takes to read it. To me, it's better writing, and it's written in a way that's more like you can hear it in your head as opposed to just reading it. But a lot of comic book people that are really successful, like they just bury the page in like words and stuff. And I think, some of that, it's like, there's two reasons for that. Is one is that people just, those kind of writers, I think, tend to just learn to write from reading comics and not reading anything else, which I don't particularly, find attractive. Or there is a sense of like people want to get their money's worth out of like a single issue. So I don't know. It's always kind of a struggle, but I do think that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, certainly like the young adult stuff and the and then, as you were saying, all these different new ways to get the stuff out, whether it's through, the online or self-publishing or crowdfunding or, like you were saying, I mean, like the War and Peas people, or that, who's the guy who did that Crisis Zone one that's like up against ADORA for the Harvey Awards. Simon
Yeah. That's
Hanselman
great.
or whatever, and just like does, it's like 4 little panels on Instagram like every day, and you just like flip through them, and then he just collected them all into this like hardcover book like at the end of the
Like
year.
Lord Olympus, the same thing. Lord Olympus,
Right.
the Greek mythology thing. It was great.
Right. Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, I like the fact that it's tricky because as a gatekeeper, like for my job, it's a little scary to think that like gatekeepers are being eliminated, but at the same, like my son is like 16 and he's super into manga, and now he's like drawing comics all the time, and he's up all night like drawing. Yeah, right. That's what I need. More comic book people in my life. He literally stays up at like 4:00 in the morning, like doing pages and pages and pages, which is, I guess, what you really need to do, right? I mean, that separates like most successful people, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, oh man, like it's funny though, like what the books he's into and the stuff he's into is like so different than what I was into.
Yeah, I think the times has evolved as well as how they consume media. The whole, and since you read so much, right, as part of your work, how do you turn off your working editor brain versus just reading for pleasure?
Yeah, for me it's hard. I mean, it's embarrassing, but I hardly read like any comics, other comics than the ones I work on, because it's like I can't, it's hard to turn that off. I'm looking at the story, I'm looking at the art, I'm finding mistakes, or I feel like I'm looking to work with new people. So, you feel like you're still working. So yeah, I mostly just I read like a lot of nonfiction. I read a lot of historical fiction and that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't read as much as I used to read. I used to try to read like a book a week. That was like my goal always, and I'd keep like lists of these, like all the books I read that year, and then I'd compare them to the year. I mean, it's really nerdy, booky, weird stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It's harder and harder to read like all the time, but mostly it's like, like I read a lot of historical fiction and a lot of nonfiction, really. What about you?
Who was a video editor, and it's like watching movies is such a pain.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. You're just like, well, why did they cut this? They should have cut that scene there. Exactly. Tell me about it.
Before we talk about change, which some people are very interested in, what are tips that you can give for writers? For Ariela, what are the tips you can give for artists? What they should not do, and for Will Dennis, for writers, what they should not do.
It should not.
Yeah.
Let me think about that while Will answer. I'm sure he already has the answer in his head.
I do, because
given that he's always given his best portfolio review ever, so I'm sure he has some tips.
This is the best. I finally lived long enough to be able to answer these questions. For years, I've been pitching.
You want this panel to happen?
Yes,
Reto Diva give you.
Right. We're gonna. This is like we're gonna workshop this panel. But for years, I've been pitching panels to New York Comic Con and San Diego Comic Con. It's called, how not to succeed in comics. And it's really just like, because everyone's always like, oh, here's how you break in, and here's what you have to. There's always panels on how to break into comics or how to survive in comics. But my panel is like how not to break into comics. Like, okay, here's all the things you're doing wrong that, like when you're pitching me stuff, or like, this is a very example. Like, if you're going to pitch me a story and it's similar to something I'm working on, one, like I probably already have that. Like, I don't necessarily need another Why the Last Man if I'm working on Why the Last Man. But I've literally had people pitch me stuff like it's like the Why the Last Man, but only better, or it's like 100 Bullets, but better, and it's like, what? Like, oh no, like really, like I can't. I don't know. Tip number 2. Here's tip number 2. If you're pitching to a writer, don't follow them into the men's room while they're going to the bathroom and then pitch to them. It may seem like it's a good, like you've got a captive audience, and you do, but at the same time, it's just like you can't. It happened to me once at San Diego, and I just was like, I appreciate your moxie, but I also I can't, because now when I think about even if I love this project, and it was the best project I ever worked on, I would always think that this is where it started, and I could never get past that. So, like, I'm sorry, but
you can tell that he's been having this in his mind for
oh
forever.
God, I know. Sorry, I'm taking over your show, and I'm sorry, I can't.
No, really, it's okay.
I think the biggest mistake people make now is around social media stuff is really like the thing I see happening the most. It's people being on there, being negative to other creators, being critical of other creators, and also just spending too much time in there. Like if you're working for me and you owe me pages or you owe me a script or but and I don't have it, but then yet I've seen you. Like, you think I'm stupid? Like, I've seen the 50 posts that you made on Instagram today, like of other books you're working on, stuff like that. You're just like, posting pages of commissions. I'm just like, oh no, stop it, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're aware or they're just like not aware that people.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
can't. If I had the answer, I'm sure I could make some money from it. But
Alvin
what about you?
Interrupts your stream of thought.
I wanna.
Alvin
I keep laughing.
Alvin is killing it tonight.
Yeah.
Alvin's like I'll be here all week. Like, don't forget to tip your waitress. Funny.
I want to go back to the commission part, because like I've been, until right now, I know I still owe at least 2 people commission that I promised them back in 2020.
Oh no.
If he's watching, Albert, probably it's 2018, 2017. It's just like I did it like smaller, like I did that. And then you as an artist, you got other projects coming in. You got to pay this bill, you got to move on with that one. And then some editor that just said like, can I have this in like a week or so? I'm just like, okay. And then you as an artist, you grow, right? After you finish every page, you grow better, hopefully. And then you look at the commission that you did, like that little thumbnail, so it's not going to work. And then you move on again. So like, hold on, can you hold on to that? Like, I will get it for you, but I will get it done. But like until right now, like I got it half done, and I'm just like, I need to start over. I don't know how any of your artists can do like, I'm just gonna do a commission in the middle of like a deadline. It's like I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to see like Steve Dillon, who did Preacher for years and like sadly passed away like too young, he could do drawings of Preacher like at the table without lifting his a marker. He would say, like, we'd sit there and he'd say, watch me, I'll do this, and I won't like ever lift the pen up. And it would literally, he could do like a Jesse Custer thing, and it was like an etch-a-sketch. Like he could just like, and he'd hand it to the guy, and the guy would but you really have to really, but
the skills all down.
I don't know. It's
do you have any comments as to what artists should not do?
Should not beat themselves when they cannot make the deadline. Because literally that's the only thing that was just like hammered into you, especially when you're from SCAD.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably, well, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing at the same time, because you're a human being, right? You're not a machine. Things happen in your life. Somebody dies, somebody gets sick, you get sick, your pet dies. Not to make an excuse, but somebody do have depression, somebody like a different level of ADHD, and you kind of have to try to forgive yourself when you cannot make the deadline. That's the first thing I learned. Like, don't be too proud, don't beat yourself too much. And the second, like, be honest about it. Like, I can't do it, give me another week. I can't do it, give me another week. Like, I'm probably lucky because like when I think the monthly things will be very tough to be on and on for like years. I will not recommend that. With like ADORA, it took me a year, I guess, to finish, because we hit the pandemic and it hit me pretty hard. With Matahari, I think in the middle of it, I remember issue 2 had a very sensitive issue there that I really wanted to avoid, but I can't because I have to finish the pages. It has some like very harsh sexual assault story in it. It really hit me really hard, and I just couldn't draw. Things like that will happen, and you kind of have to know your limit. That's the first thing that I will, if I go back to SCAT and I talk to a class and people ask me what not to do, they were like, look, you have to do the deadline because your professor only assigned you 4 pages for 2 months. Do it, goddammit. Like,
Yeah,
4
right,
pages.
right.
4 pages for 2 months is a luxury.
Right.
You will
25,
not.
right.
Yeah, you will not have
25
that.
pages in a month.
Exactly. Compared to 25 pages a month after you graduate, you will wish you go back to SCAT. Like you will wish that.
No, that's great. I think that's great advice. I feel like, I haven't really heard many people say that on panels and stuff, but that is great advice. Yeah, because I think it goes hand in hand with what I would say. It's just like, it is like being honest about it. Like I've always said, like there's no such thing as a comic book emergency, obviously it's publishing and the stuff has to come out and it's commercial, but we're not curing cancer here, right? So it's like, it should be fun and it's enjoyable and we're trying to bring some joy into people's lives. So it shouldn't be a miserable experience. But I think the problem for me is always when I would much, much rather have an artist come to me and say, I'm not going to make it. And I don't even have to get into the details. You want your privacy, whatever. I don't expect you to justify, it's, this or that, the other thing. But there's a lot of people that just won't do that. They won't meet you on that. And then they're ducking you and then they're making excuses. And, that just gets worse because you just are like, look, I'm not stupid. I'd much prefer to kind of work this out. And you can always work it out. I mean, everybody always said to me, they're like, you always have like plan B. I'm like, I have plan C, D, and E also, I think like that's sort of my superpower is like being able to look at the thing and say, how are we going to fix this problem or what can we do? But also like reminding people like, look, it's a problem, but like, let's have some perspective here. Like we're not, these are high class problems that we have, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. That's great advice for people. I think I should definitely. I'm going to repeat that the next time I'm on my how not to succeed in comics panel.
All right, so we come to this section where some people are very curious about, and that's the project that you'll be working on next, Ariela, with Scott Snyder called Chain. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Either of you?
I don't know how much we can reveal.
Go ahead. You can tell them. I mean, you got any pages there, or you're not at home?
I do have some in my computer.
Put a page up. Let's see some stuff.
You can share it.
He wants to see some stuff because
right.
he needs to see some stuff from me this week. One.
Oh yeah, you have those pages that you were going to send me that you didn't send me. Let's see them.
I need to leave right now.
Right, exactly. My dog ate me more. This is like I'm going to do one of these every Friday. Let's just do this every Friday, and then I can like check on the pages. No, it's pretty cool. I mean, Scott's written the first issue, and he's kind of mapped out a lot of the rest of it as he usually does. Okay. And I don't know how many pages or how many issues is it we landed at, like 6, 5, 6. I mean, how many issues? How many issues?
It's either 5 or 6. 5 or 6.
Something like that.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Kind of the sweet spot.
How do I do this? Like, do I just share?
The share button at the bottom of the panel.
This is, I think the page does. Okay, share screen. Like, I need to be careful with what I am sharing.
But and it's I don't know. It's got a the female. There's like a female character, the main character. That's Ariel's like definitely helped sort of develop. Yeah, see, she cuts too many corners on all the details. That's my biggest complaint. Look at all that stuff. Oh my God! Look at this shot. Okay, look in the corner, like the laundry basket in the corner there. Like, do we need to put the laundry like in the lower right hand corner? No, not in the lower right hand corner where you actually like the camera is like going through the laundry basket.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, I know, but it's like you've gone out of your. I mean, it's great. One time, Eduardo Riso on 100 Bullets once did a shot where a guy's playing pinball, but like the camera is like on the pinball. You know, it's on the
Oh my God.
the surface. So it's like it's looking up at the guy, and you can see through the glass, but then you can see like the sides of all the bumpers and stuff like that, like as if there was like a little like micro camera like on the playing surface of the pinball machine. I was like, oh my God, you guys are maniacs. This is definitely. But yeah, I don't know. So it's like I don't have like the really good pitch down on it, but it's basically like a sort of a horror adventure where the food chain has reversed itself, so that right, so the animal kingdom is kind of like humans become like the bottom of the food chain, sort of. So it's got elements of like the birds and like, but it's set in, where are we set? Like in Alaska, like in some, so it's got elements of sort of like John Carpenter's The Thing, or even things like that. But yeah, I don't know. You came up with a lot of like backstory for this main character and stuff. So
can we tell about the main characters? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Scott,
yeah, I think so. Scott loves to talk. I mean, I don't know. He's look at that last panel. That's a very Riso-esque panel, actually.
Love the work, yeah.
I think Scott was the one actually who pushed the characters to not be white. Like at first, I says like, no, just make her, like if you want to make her a POC, a person of color, but still make her like an American or whatever. I don't really like. I'm not very invested in it. Like I don't like something that is very surfacey. You know what I mean? Like if I just throw up like a batik or a sarung on a person and said, "Oh, that's nationalism," I don't want it to play that way. That's a prop, and that's disrespectful to me. But Scott is really like, no, we could just actually make her something from your country, maybe, or something that you feel really close to. And I think like, well, that's not okay. Let's just try this. I think we can. And then so we come up with like a very deep backstory of her, how she came to be, how she got to America. And I think the story relates to me. And then I still can bring some of her or some of my world in her. And it's also really good because like I'm half Chinese. My mom is Chinese Indonesian, and my father is Japanese. So it was like, well, she's probably kind of like me because I can relate. Like Indonesia is very white, right? You got 300 ethnicities. Like how can I choose one ethnicity that I don't know? So I'm just gonna choose one that I know. At the very least, I cannot really say that this represents Indonesia because Indonesia has so many people, and then we're not a single mind country.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but then it was interesting too to have like this kind of, then have the setting be this Arctic kind of wasteland was sort of an interesting dichotomy too. I thought, we were thinking that coming from. Can even just play, like, does she really like the cold weather, or is she constantly complaining about the cold weather, or, like, which, like, it seems like just little character moments, or like even like some, maybe like a little humor that you could sort of inject into the story as you went along, if that was like just a thing. Plus, if it's in the snow a lot, that's easier to draw, right?
You would think so.
I know. I wouldn't. You need to study Jock's Snow Angels book that I've been working on. Jock did 10 issues in about like 6 months, and he's like, "This, I'm gonna make every story I do from now on in the desert or in the Arctic wasteland." But no, I know those pages look amazing though.
Thank you.
It looks so good. Definitely see this title. When is it going to be published again, or like ready for fans?
Well, it depends. I mean, I think the plan is at the moment it's at Image Comics, and like in the direct market right now, we're doing like December books. I think we're trying to get together. So at this rate, it'll probably be like early next year, because they like to get a few like in the can before they sort of publish it. Something like, it's one of the differences, like this comiXology stuff that I've just started with Scott.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot less lead time for that, which is kind of interesting. Like you can really, which is cool. It's definitely, you don't have to be working so far in advance, because like even as you work on, if I work on a regular series for, say, Image, so I was talking to someone else earlier today, and they're saying like editors are almost like time travelers, because you're working on a book that's just coming. Like if I'm working on an issue that comes out this coming Wednesday in the stores, like the issue that comes after it is due this coming Tuesday, but then I have an issue behind it that's due the month after that, so it's like and then 3 months from now, there's a cover that's due. So I got a cover artist working 3 months ahead. I got a writer working 2 issues ahead. I got an artist and their inker 1 issue. And then this other one just came out. So it's like at any one time, you're working on maybe 4, possibly 5 issues in some facet, it's not like, you just work on one thing and then, but obviously the comiXology stuff we've been working on. I know, Ariel, we saw that stuff this week where people were like, I don't know how Scott's going to write 8 books in 1 month. And it's like, hey, dummy, like, do you really think that, like we're announcing this? And it's like, right. And then
writing at the same time.
Scott announces it Monday. Okay, Tuesday, I'm going to write 8 scripts, like,
like that's my biggest beef of all, that like people don't know that's going on behind the screen, and they think they know, and then they lecture us about it. Like,
they're also not aware of what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But they feel as if like they know so much.
Like why don't you ask first before you're saying something? Well, you are very sure about one thing and then you just spew it out. It's like, why would you do that? Why?
Yeah, I don't blame people for not necessarily understanding, but at the same time, it's like, give us a little credit that like maybe there's a plan,
we've been doing this for some time,
Right, I'm in like 22 years of this. Like I feel like I have some track record built up that like these books will come out, that they'll be good, that you'll like them. But no, it's like as soon as it comes out, it's like, oh, these guys don't know what they're doing. I can't believe they're going to do 8 books in 1 month. It's like, no.
But I like to interject at this point in case some of the viewers do not know what we are referring to. It's Scott Snyder's massive deal with Amazon's comiXology and Dark Horse, where he's coming out with 8 titles, and they create their own stories with artists like Greg Capullo, Job, Dan Tenosia. It's like this.
Lisa, yeah.
Always like I was looking at the announcement, going, whoa.
Oh, good. That's what we were looking for. We wanted to get, we were like, everybody was like, oh, we should tease it. We should let people out. I'm like, no, just Monday. I want this like the Beyonce album that comes out. Like, boom, like there it is. Like I just want like let's just take over Monday. Mind space. But, yeah,
I love that. I love that the next day people were like, anybody else doing an announcement for book deals?
Right, I know, it's funny.
I was like, I do, but there's just one book, so probably nothing.
The
bar is like this high now. Like you have to make 8 book deal before you can announce anything.
And you got to keep it secret with like 8 teams and 8 people, and so. But yeah, it's pretty. He's going to be doing a newsletter, like a Substack newsletter too. If people are interested, you can sign up for that at bestjacket.com or bestjacketpress.com. Sign up. But he's going to be doing a couple of posts a week, probably maybe with that, where he's pushing stuff out to people, and we're going to try to like really show a lot of like process stuff and kind of. Just kind of fun, like keeping people connected as much as we can, because Scott is definitely into that sort of wanting to connect with his audience in like very direct ways, So
the same thoughts when I saw that the whoa.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna put that on the quote now. I'm gonna quote you. Red Dot Divas at whoa, just like dude, that's perfect. Get that on a t-shirt also.
We're going to kind of wind down right now. In case you have any questions, guys, just keep on posting and we'll kind of pick it up. And one last question. maybe for Ariela. And now that, Scott Snyder's coming up with his own company and all these new creator-owned titles, does this spur you on to launch any of your own creator-owned books or stories in the future?
Maybe.
Am I really?
I don't know.
At that time when I was having a panel
Wow.
with Taurus, right, I read his mind, and now this,
I know. It's just like, what? No, you're definitely going to next. So anybody asking you to take on work is wasting your time, because the next thing you're going to do is write and draw your own stuff. Because early on, I remember early on when we first met, and you showed me a lot of stuff that you had kind of done, and you had posted stuff that was like, oh, this is characters that I've been writing and drawing and thinking about. And it's like, that's where you want to be, like you're obviously smart enough, you're talented enough. You have this interesting background and perspective that a lot of people here don't have, but clearly, like, I don't know, to me, that's the goal of every artist, every writer, is like, you want to create your own stuff, own your own stuff, whatever. It's great to work on X-Men, Spider-Man, or whatever,
Right.
but do it, but essentially, like, you're just like you're like a gardener at like a giant estate, instead of like owning the estate. Like, you want to own Downton Abbey. You don't want to be like working at the gardens at Downton Abbey. You know what I mean? So that's what so I don't know. Anyway, that's you're zoning in on my brainwaves, because that's what we're pushing her to do next. But it's tricky, because I don't want her we don't want to get distracted from the thing in front of you, but at the same time, you always got to have like that next thing in the pipeline.
Ariela, any comments? You're just laughing away at the background.
There's somebody said like Lost of Our Land. Lost of Our Land is the benefit book, the most important comic book that Will and I was working on, like this benefit book for the environment. Oh God. Oh no.
I think Elvin has a job as a like copywriter / hype man.
Beautiful music-inspired doodlings would be superb.
Oh yeah, I do that a lot. Yeah, I think this is the loss. This is the loss of our land. I think I shared it. Everybody can see it, right? Yeah, this is. Yeah, loss of our land. This is a story where I was doing like a short 3-page story about animal that are going extinct in Borneo. So it was a pretty sad story. I think 3-page. It was a fun work to do, but at the same time also sad.
Yeah, I mean, that project it's a big benefit book that I was working on that DK is publishing at the end of October, and just in time for that big climate conference in Glasgow at the end of October. And it's like it ended up ballooning to like, I don't know, 350 pages maybe, or something close to that. And so she wrote and drew 3-page story. But so it's tricky, because a lot of it's kind of aimed at younger people, but we wanted a mix of, some stories are funny, some stories are sort of sad, some are very informative, so you didn't, it's like, you don't want it to just be, I think people, particularly when it comes to climate issues, like feel very overwhelmed, like you don't know where to start, you don't know what to do. So a lot of these stories were meant to be very like, kind of prescriptive and like very specific like, this is a very specific thing. It's not just like, oh, this climate change is happening, like, so it's interesting. But this is like a lot of mixed, like you did some of your own coloring, and then there's watercoloring mixed in, right? And
the background is watercolor, and I try to color the characters myself. I try to digital color the background as well, but they're spirits, like they're animal spirits. I think like I will just kind of do watercolor on them.
I love the vibrant colors.
Yeah. This is well, you could take this and turn it into something someday if you want to. I mean, the good thing with the nature of the story, it was the nature of this was that we essentially just licensing the stories, so the artists we weren't like acquiring the rights to any of these characters, these things. And because we have a lot of there is a good mix. There's a lot of online people like War and Peas, and some of those people are in it, and lots of other comic book people, writers, environmental activists, whatever. But yeah, that was a pretty sweet story.
That's so good. That's so good. I was kind of looking forward to that because I love animals and nature and all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
I
involved.
know.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
yeah,
I
exactly.
think we're going to wrap up now, and we don't want to
Mhm.
hold people too long on this live stream, and they can just go enjoy their lunch or something like this.
Right.
Well, hang on for a while I, say goodbye and announce
Mhm.
some of the things that's coming up in my live streams for August. Just hold on for a while, and then we'll say proper goodbye to you. And if you do have a last minute question, just post it down below, and then we'll pick it up before we say goodbye. So thanks so much for joining in. I know you guys are comic book fans, and that I hope you enjoy our surprise guest, Will Dennis. I'm so glad that he's joining us today. And for him, it'll be at night, though, past midnight. Right. And August is going to be another like 2 live stream month, a double barrel month again. I decided to do a special one on to celebrate our National Day on the 9th of August. We're not going to do it on the day itself. We're going to do it on the night after because these two guys that I enjoy their company very much. They are the host of a new Singapore Star Wars podcast, and they have called it uh, 5 Stars and That's No Moon. 5 stars and that's no moon, which is actually like our Singapore flag. There's 5 stars and there's a crescent moon, right? So I really love the name of the podcast that they gave to their podcast as well. And the host, Asmi Danuri, who is the founder of Fight Saber, a lightsaber performance group that's been sanctioned by Lucasfilm as well, and you will see them performing in May the 4th celebrations and all that. And that like Pro, who's a movie reviewer, and they have already generated a few episodes on Star Wars related news like the Bad Batch and so on. And we're going to go into their origin story on 10th August at 9 p.m. Singapore time. Now, I also have a guest for our regular live with Diva for August. I'm not going to announce him right now, so look out for the guest announcements on my social media. A hint, it will be interesting for those who are thinking about self-publishing. Okay, so you're interested in self-publishing, you might want to join the live stream on the end of August. Look out for the announcement. I'll be probably posting that tomorrow or so. And if you have any other creative contacts, especially for Southeast Asian creators, just drop me a note as well. I would love to invite them for the live stream because I feel that this is a platform where the Southeast Asian creators can have a voice and to show off their work and to let people know more about them. So we're gonna say goodbye soon, and I'm gonna bring all of them back on screen. And Ariela and Will, thanks so much for joining us today. And there was a lot of interesting topics and advice and tips that was discussed. John says, thank you for taking time for this conversation. Insights.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah, it's great. So hope to see you in real life soon,
Mhm.
especially when we are able to, get over this pandemic and the Singapore Comic Con is up and ready. Perhaps hopefully, they will invite you over.
Yeah, or come
Hopefully.
to New York. I'll take you all out in New York. We'll have a good time in New York.
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
Bye,
Tina, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Tina.
Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, have a good